A white shape sat in my lane and didn't move. I hit my brakes, and the tires chirped on cold pavement. It was a baby stroller. No car pulled over. No asar lights. Just a stroller, dead center, angled toward my bumper like someone placed it with care. I sat there gripping the wheel, waiting for a cry. Nothing. I put the car in park anyway because my brain did the stupid human thing. Check. I stepped out and the air punched my lungs. Cold went straight down my throat. I've been driving with the heater on and music up, and the silence outside felt like somebody hit mute on the world. My headlights made two ugly cones on the asphalt, and everything past them turned into black water. The trees didn't sway. The ditches didn't hiss with animals. Even the bugs felt gone. The stroller looked wrong in that light. Not abandoned in a hurry wrong. Not fell out of truck wrong. It sat too clean and too centered, wheels straight, handle angled like it was presenting itself. Whoever put it there didn't toss it. They parked it. I stood there with my hands out, like that would stop whatever was about to happen, then walked up slow and kept glancing at the ditches and the tree gaps. The road had that thin shine it gets when the temperature drops. If someone came up behind me fast, I'd have nowhere to go. That thought made my stomach squeeze. I still leaned in. The stroller was empty. The blanket inside was stiff with something dark and dry. Not blood fresh. Old. Crusty. Like somebody wanted the image more than the baby. The smell hit after I got close. Penny's old smoke, piss that dried and got re-wet. It wasn't one clean smell. It was layered, like the blanket had lived in a trunk. I pinched the corner and it crackled like cardboard. Little flakes lifted off, stuck to my fingertips. My brain did this dumb flip, where it tried to picture a kid anyway. Tried to make the stain, maybe spilled formula, tried to do anything except admit what my gut already knew. I backed up and wiped my fingers on my jeans like that mattered. Behind me, my car ticked as it cooled. That small mechanical sound made the whole thing feel staged, like I'd hit my mark. My door clicked behind me. Not shut, locked. I'd hit lock without thinking. The sound snapped my head around. I saw the orange lock button down through the window. Locked. I ran back to the driver door and yanked. Nothing. I yanked again and felt the handle flex. I dug for my keys, and my stomach dropped when my pocket came up empty. I looked down and saw them in the gravel by the front tire, half buried like they'd been there all night. I crouched, grabbed, and fumbled because adrenaline makes you stupid. The keyring slipped, hit rock, and skittered. I heard the clink and wanted to scream. Then the ditch on the right moved. Two figures rose up out of it like they'd been part of the ground. They didn't wave. They didn't say hey. They didn't rush like someone running to help. They walked like they had time, like they knew I wasn't going anywhere. One of them kept his shoulders loose, almost lazy. The other walked stiff, head slightly down, like he wanted to stay a shadow. My brain tried to give them normal faces. Hunters. A couple dudes out smoking. Guys who saw me stop and figured I was stranded. I wanted that version so bad, I almost believed it. Then one of them laughed. Low, not at a joke. At me. I dropped to both knees and raked the gravel, not even looking, just grabbing at anything metal. My eyes kept flicking up every second. They were close enough now that I could see dirt under their nails and the wet shine on their lips. One had a hat pulled low. The other had greasy clumps of hair. Both of them kept their hands out, ready, and neither of them looked at the stroller. They looked at me. That's what told me what the stroller was for. My chest locked up like I forgot how to breathe. I heard my own mouth making this small, stupid panting sound. My tongue tasted like copper. I found the keys, scooped them, and jammed them toward the lock. I missed the slot the first time. Metal scraped paint. My hand shook so hard I couldn't line up a key with a hole. I swore and shoved again, hard enough to bend my wrist. The key finally slid in. I turned it. I ripped the handle. I threw my whole body into the seat. I slammed the door and hit lock again because of course I did. A hand slapped my window. Fingers splayed. Dirt under the nails. The sound was flat and heavy, like meat on glass. Another hand grabbed my passenger handle and yanked, hard, making the whole door shudder. I heard the seals pop. I heard the handle creak like it might give. The guy on my side leaned in close, and I caught his breath fogging the corner of the glass. He didn't smile. He just stared at my face like he was taking inventory, like he wanted me to see him seeing me. I stabbed the ignition. The engine coughed like it wanted to die, just to fuck me, then caught. I threw the car into reverse and floored it. The tires spun on cold pavement. The back end fishtailed. For a split second, I thought I'd stall out, and they'd be on me. Hands in the window gap, fingers in my hair. Then the tires bit, and the car lunged. The stroller exploded under my bumper with a plastic crunch that sounded like bones, even though it wasn't. The car bumped twice like I'd hit a curb. The sound filled the cabin, and my stomach lurched like I'd done something unforgivable. Something snagged and dragged for a second, then tore loose with a wet-ripping sound. The hand on my window slid off. The guy on the passenger side stumbled, missed the handle, and slapped the door like it offended him. I kept backing until I hit the shoulder, and the whole car bounced on the ditch lip. Gravel sprayed. I cranked the wheel, swung around, and shot forward, headlights whipping across trees. In the mirror, I saw one of them stumble into the road and go down. I don't know if my bumper clipped him or if he tripped over the stroller wreck, but he hit the pavement and rolled. I saw the other drag him by the collar like a sack, hauling him out of my lane like it was nothing, like he'd done it before. I didn't stop. I didn't call. My brain kept screaming one sentence on repeat. Get away. I drove with my shoulders up around my ears, and my jaw clenched until my teeth ached. Every time a car came the other direction, I braced for it to turn around. Every set of reflectors on mailboxes looked like eyes. I kept checking the mirror, expecting headlights to appear and sit right on my bumper. My phone sat in the cup holder, and the screen kept lighting up from the vibration of the road. I couldn't make myself touch it. I told myself I'd call when I hit a lit place. Then I blew past every lit place anyway. When I finally hit my neighborhood, the streetlights looked too warm, like a lie. I turned into my driveway too fast, and the tires crunched on gravel. I parked crooked. I sat there with the engine running and my foot welded to the brake, staring at my own front door like I didn't recognize it. At home, I got out and looked at my bumper. I needed proof. I needed something solid. White plastic bits sat jammed in the grill. A broken wheel wedged under the car. When I nudged it with my shoe, it squeaked, soft and high like a toy dying. The sound made my throat close. A strip of cloth hung from the grill, snagged, greasy, smelling like piss and old smoke. It had a dark smear on it that looked black in the porch light. I grabbed it with 2 fingers and it came away slick, not wet, just greasy like it had soaked up every nasty thing it touched. I ripped it off and gagged in my driveway. I bent over and dry heaved until my eyes watered. Then I straightened up and stared at the front of my car like it belonged to someone else. I kept thinking about that bump, the way the car hopped, and my mind tried to swap plastic for flesh. I crouched and checked under the bumper like I expected to find hair or a shoe or a tooth. Just stroller shards, mud, and that cloth stink hanging in the air. Inside, I locked the deadbolt, then locked it again like it would double lock if I believed hard enough. I checked the windows. I checked the back door. I stood in my kitchen with the lights on, hands shaking, washing them 3 times, scrubbing until my knuckles went red, and I still smelled it. Part of me wanted to grab my phone and call the cops and be the responsible adult. The other part kept seeing those 2 shapes rising out of the ditch and thinking if they wanted to follow me, they already knew where I lived. I still don't know if I hit a man or just his pride. I only know someone set a stroller in the road because they wanted a driver to get out of the car and become the next thing left behind. The temperature needle jumped fast, like a panic attack on my dashboard. I turned the heater on full blast to bleed heat and watched steam creep from under the hood anyway. I pulled onto a gravel turnout and killed the engine. No signal, no houses, just trees and my own breathing. I stayed locked in and waited because getting out felt like stepping off a boat into black water. I kept the hazards on and my seatbelt buckled like that mattered. I kept my keys in my fist so tight the metal bit my palm. I knew the smart thing was pop the hood and wave someone down, make it obvious I needed help. But I've watched enough shit happen to know help is a coin flip when you're alone. So I sat there with the hood shut, sweating with the heater blasting like a hair dryer at my knees. The car ticked as it cooled. The sweet coolant stink kept sneaking in anyway. Every time a branch scraped in the wind, I flinched like it was a hand on my door. I told myself I was being dramatic. I also kept my thumb hovering over the lock button like a reflex. A pickup appeared behind me 10 minutes later. It rolled up slow and stopped close enough that its headlights filled my back seat. The driver didn't flash hazards. He didn't honk. He sat there a moment like he was deciding something. That's what it felt like. Not concern, not curiosity, calculation. He got out and walked to my window. He bent down and smiled. I kept my window up. He knocked once, then tried my passenger door handle like it was normal. Not a little tug, a full grab and pull. The lock thunked and held. My throat closed. I hit the lock button again, even though it was already locked, like I could stack locks on top of each other. He didn't step back embarrassed. He leaned in closer, still smiling, and lifted his hand like I should roll the window down and thank him. I shook my head and mouthed no. He stared at my mouth like he hated that word. Then he walked around the front of my car slow, staring at my hood, my tires, my windshield like he was inspecting a used car. I caught a quick look at him in the side mirror. Ball cap low, gray stubble work jacket. Normal enough to be dangerous. He came back to the passenger side and tried the handle again, slower this time, careful, like he didn't want to make noise. That's when my brain finally screamed, "Get the fuck out." I stopped playing polite. I started the car again. It coughed and turned over. The needle climbed like it hated me. Steam puffed up. He stepped back and lifted his hands like he was innocent, like I was the rude one. I threw it into drive and pulled out, gravel snapping under the tires, and I didn't look back until I hit the road. I pulled out and drove on the overheating engine because I wanted distance more than I want a working car. The heater kept blasting. My windshield fogged at the edges. I wiped it with my sleeve and kept the wheel straight because I didn't trust myself not to jerk it into the ditch. In the mirror, his headlights slid out from the turnout a few seconds later. He stayed back just far enough to look normal, like we were strangers going the same way. I tried speeding up. The car screamed and the needle climbed. I slowed down to baby it, and he slowed down too. I tapped the brake once just to see if he'd pass. He didn't. He matched me, same distance, the whole time like he wanted me to know he was there and also wanted plausible deniability if anyone asked. A mile later, my brake pedal went soft. Not gradual, soft like a sponge. I pressed harder and felt nothing bite. My stomach dropped through the floor. I pumped it fast and it just sank under my foot, dead and useless. The car kept rolling. The road curved ahead, and for a second my brain went blank except for the word no. I downshifted and rode the rumble strip, fighting the wheel, trying to scrub speed without brakes. The whole car rattled like it was going to shake apart. My hands cramped around the steering wheel. A deer-shaped shadow moved at the tree line, and I swear my soul left my body for a second. I kept my right tires chewing the shoulder and my left tires on asphalt, just trying to bleed speed without sliding off. In the mirror, the pickup stayed behind me. Light steady, not passing, not backing off. Just watching me wobble. That's the part that still pisses me off. If he was some random guy, he'd go around. He'd honk. He'd give space. He stayed right there like he was waiting for me to lose it so he could roll up again and pretend he'd found me. I grabbed my phone and hit 911 anyway, even with no bars. It failed instantly. I threw it onto the seat and scanned for anything, any lot, any sign, any lights. I saw a way station sign ahead and aimed for it like it was a hospital. I rolled into the lot, engine screaming, and dragged the handbrake until the car shuddered to a stop. The rear end twitched. I killed the ignition, and the sudden quiet made my ears ring. Steam rose in lazy curls from the front like the car was exhaling. I jumped out and ran to the first group of people I saw, truckers smoking under a light, and pointed at my car and my shaking legs at the road. I didn't do the calm explanation thing. I just spilled it The pickup, the door handle, my brakes going out. One guy looked at me like I was making drama and started to laugh, like he'd already filed me under hysterical. I snapped at him without planning to, told him to look at my car before he decided I was lying. He stopped laughing. Another one swore under his breath and walked toward the entrance of the lot to look. That was enough to make me feel like I wasn't alone in a box anymore. The pickup slowed at the mouth of the lot. It didn't come in. It just sat there on the shoulder with its lights on, like it was thinking about it. One of the truckers stepped into the light, big silhouette, arms out, and another lifted his phone and held it up like a camera. The pickup rolled for a few feet, then backed off and drove on like nothing happened. After it disappeared around the bend, the lot fell too open. I kept staring past the lamps into the dark tree line, waiting for him to cut his lights and roll back in from some other entrance that didn't exist. One of the truckers asked if I'd been followed before, and my brain did that stupid thing where it tried to supply a reason, like maybe I'd done something to deserve it. I hadn't. I'd just broken down in the wrong place. I kept seeing his hand on my door handle, the casual way he tested it, like the car belonged to him already. When I finally walked back to my car, I saw a fresh, greasy smudge on the passenger handle, right where his fingers would have wrapped. It wasn't there before. I rubbed at it, and it just spread. One of the guys told me to stop touching things and to keep my hands where the light could see them. And I hated that I needed instruction for my own body, but I listened and shoved my hands in my pockets so I wouldn't start shaking again. I didn't relax. I stayed under that light like it was glue. A way station guy wandered out eventually, annoyed, like I'd woken him up. He started with the whole, "You can't just park here," attitude until he saw the steam and the truckers around me. He told me to move my car off the scale lane, and I told him I couldn't move it because my brakes were gone, and he stared like the concept offended him. He called someone anyway, then told me to sit and stop pacing because I was making him nervous. I almost laughed at that. I was nervous enough for both of us. When mechanic finally looked under my hood, he found the brake line nicked clean, like somebody used a blade and didn't rush. Not wear, not bad luck, a decision. He shined his flashlight on it, and you could see where the rubber split neat and the fluid had sprayed out in a fan. He wiped his finger through it and held it up like proof. He didn't have to say much. His face said it. The cop who showed up later asked if I had a plate number. I didn't. He asked if I was sure the guy touched my car. I told him the door handle part, the way the brakes went out right after the cut line. He wrote it down like it was a complaint about a rude cashier. I got louder. I hated myself for it, but I did. I told him I almost went off a curve at 60 because somebody wanted to play nice guy predator in the dark. He finally looked at the cut again, and his mouth tightened. The truckers gave their names as witnesses, and suddenly the cop's posture changed. Like the story got heavier when men repeated it. They towed my car, patched the line enough to load it, and told me not to drive it until it was fully replaced. I sat on a concrete barrier with my arms crossed and tried to stop shaking. I couldn't. My body kept running like the danger was still right there. I watched the highway from that lit lot for an hour. Every pickup that passed made my stomach jump. Most of them were just working guys hauling loads, minding their own business. And that made it worse because it meant he could blend in forever. The pickup never came in. That's what sticks with me. Not the breakdown, not the soft pedal. The way someone tried to turn my help moment into a quiet disappearance, then drove off when I brought witnesses into it. Blue lights hit my rear view and filled the whole car. No other traffic. No shoulder wide enough to breathe. I slowed and kept rolling because the lights sat too close, like the driver wanted my panic more than my license. The siren didn't whoop right. It chirped, cheap like a ringtone. I flipped my hazards on and eased down like I was being polite. The SUV didn't give a damn. It stayed so tight I couldn't see its grille, just a glare. Every time I eased the brake, it eased with me like it was glued to my bumper. I waited for the normal sound, wail, yelp, something that felt like an actual cruiser. Instead, it was that broken chirp like somebody's alarm clock dying, and it kept cutting in and out like the wiring was cheap. I caught myself doing the thing everyone does, making excuses so the world stays normal. Maybe it's an unmarked. Maybe their sirens busted. Maybe I'm just tired. Meanwhile, I'm alone on a black highway with a vehicle close enough to kiss my bumper and a driver who doesn't seem interested in safety. I took the next exit on purpose. The car stayed on me. I signaled early, slowed early, kept it obvious I wasn't running. It still rode me like it wanted contact, like it wanted me to feel its weight. The exit dumped into dead businesses and darkness. Great. I turned into a closed strip mall lot because I wanted cameras and light. The lot was dark anyway. Half the poles were dead. The remaining ones buzzed and threw weak patches of gray over shuttered storefronts. No cars, no people, just my idling engine and that chirp turning the air into static. The SUV stopped behind me, angled in like a block. That angle hit me harder than the lights. Real cops line up behind you. They don't park like they're pinning you in. I kept the car in drive with my foot hard on the brake. Doors locked, interior light on, wallet up on the dash where anyone could see it. My phone was right there too, and I didn't touch it because I didn't want a reason for anyone to say I reached. A guy stepped out in a dark uniform. Nobody'd seen it. No radio noise. He walked up fast and kept his hands low near his belt. I searched his chest for a nameplate, a patch, anything reflective. Nothing popped under the lot lights. His flashlight did. He tapped my window with the light and pointed down, telling me to roll it all the way. I cracked it 2 inches. He leaned in immediately and tried to hook his fingers under the glass like he wanted leverage, like he was about to pry it down himself. Not license and registration. Not, do you know why I stopped you? Just fingers curling under my window. That killed the last bit of doubt. I shook my head and kept the crack where it was. He pointed again, harder, and his jaw set like I'd broken a rule. I got a hit of stale coffee off him and something sour, and his eyes kept flicking past me into my car like he was counting seats, counting problems. He didn't look like a guy doing a traffic stop. He looked like a guy trying to get his hands on the inside of my door. I shoved the car into drive and pulled forward. My tires chirped because my foot slipped on the pedal. He slapped the hood hard and ran alongside, grabbing my mirror. The mirror folded. Plastic popped. His face twisted like I'd insulted him. He yanked the mirror like he wanted to tear it off, and for a second his head was level with my window, and I saw pure anger, not authority. I hit the access road and kept moving. I killed my hazards because they felt like an apology. I took a right, then another, anything that kept me off a straight line where he could sit behind me and own my mirror again. For maybe 30 seconds, I thought I'd lost him, and then the blue glare bloomed again behind me, like the night itself lit up. Same SUV, same distance, too close, same cheap chirp. He looped around and got back on my ass like he owned the road. My rear bumper jolted once, light contact like he was testing me. The wool twitched in my hands. I tasted metal in my mouth. He did it again, softer, a tap that said, "You can't just leave." Fresh panic rose and then turned into anger because this wasn't a cop trying to keep the road safe. This was somebody hurting me. I kept thinking, call 911, and I didn't because part of my brain still worried he'd suddenly be real and I'd get hammered for not pulling over fast enough. That's what makes me furious now. Even when it's fake, that uniform in your head still works. It makes you second-guess survival. It makes you hesitate. I finally grabbed my phone anyway, thumb shaking, and held it up near the wheel with the camera open. It didn't scare him off. The light stayed on. The chirp kept biting. I aimed for the only place I knew would have people, a 24-hour diner near the truck route. I wasn't thinking about food. I was thinking about witnesses and big guys who don't scare easy. I drove like I had somewhere to be, not like I was lost because I didn't want him to smell indecision. Every red light felt like a trap. I rolled through a couple on empty streets and hated myself for it, but I wasn't going to sit stopped with him breathing down my trunk. When I finally saw the diner sign, bright and stupid against the dark, my whole body tightened like it was bracing for a hit. I turned in hard and pulled under the light like I was crawling into a campfire circle. I parked right in the open and laid on the horn until people turned their heads. I didn't care how insane I looked. I wanted eyes on my car. I wanted noise. I wanted the whole lot to remember me. The SUV didn't follow into the lot. It rolled past slow, then vanished. I sat there with my horn echoing, listening for that chirp to come back, waiting for the lights to swing around and pin me again. Nothing. I got out anyway, legs shaky, and I kept my door between me and the road while I backed toward the entrance. Inside, everything smelled like grease and burnt coffee. A couple guys at the counter looked me up and down like I was the problem. One of them snorted, like this was entertainment. That set me off, and I snapped something sharp at him because my nerves were raw and I wasn't about to be laughed at with my mirror hanging broken outside. He threw his hands up like I was crazy. Another guy told me to chill. I told him he didn't get to vote on my fear. That got a few heads turning. The waitress told me to calm down in that tired voice people use when they think you're dramatic. I told her to look outside at my car, at the mirror at the scuffs. She glanced, shrugged like it could be a normal accident, and went back to pouring coffee. I wanted to scream. Instead, I pulled my phone out and called 911. I kept it simple. Location, exit, dark SUV with blue lights, weird siren, guy in a dark uniform tried to get my window down. The operator asked if I was injured. I looked at my hands like I might be bleeding without noticing. I said no. She told me to stay inside. I sat where I could see my car through the glass and kept my keys in my fist. The guy who laughed earlier muttered drama again. I told him to shut the fuck up. He smirked and said something about me running from the cops. That was the last straw. I leaned in close enough for him to smell the adrenaline on me and told him if he kept talking I'd walk outside, point at his truck, and tell the next cop it was his lights behind me. It was petty and mean, and it worked. He shut up. Every set of headlights, sweeping the windows, made my throat close. I pictured the SUV sliding in again, blocking me, and the whole diner deciding it wasn't their business. I kept my phone up like I'd suddenly become the kind of person who records everything, like footage would stop a hand from getting under my window. A real cop showed up later and walked my car with a flashlight. He found fresh scuffs on my rear bumper where something had kissed it, metal on paint. Up close, I could see the smear of paint transfer, like the other vehicle had nudged me and backed off. He found 2 nails on the exit ramp shaped like caltrops. Under the diner light, they looked deliberate, bent and sharpened for one job. He checked my tires too, slow, like he expected to find one already losing air. He didn't say fake police. He didn't need to. He just told me I did the right thing by not pulling over where I did. He asked for details, asked for a plate I didn't have, and I felt stupid and angry at myself for not turning around to read it. Like that's something a person can do while they're trying not to get yanked out of their car. He said they'd check cameras if any were working. He said it in that careful, flat voice that doesn't promise an ending. I drove home with my hands locked at 10 and 2, checking my mirror every 5 seconds because the worst part wasn't the lights. It was how close I came to obeying them.